Well, welcome to this month's Midlife and Thriving newsletter, where we are guiding midlife women back to the most important relationship of their lives with themselves through the art of self-care, ensuring that through their thriving, they are enabled to take their brilliance out into the world with energy, confidence and joy, role modeling for generations to come. And joining me this month is the wonderful Belinda Anderson, who is a facilitator and guide, but also the creator of the Necibo Libre program, which is Born Free. Belinda, welcome to this month's Midlife and Thriving.
Thanks, Yvonne. That's a wonderful introduction, and I'm really pleased to be here. So thank you for inviting me.
Wonderful. And I met Belinda through a networking connection, and wow, kind of looked at the work that she is doing, and it's really deep. It's really meaningful. I had the pleasure of having a session with Belinda, and it's what was interesting for me, Belinda, is that it's like however much work you do, there's just this other layer. There's this other layer, and I love that. I love that because for me, that's like you never feel like you're at the end of a journey. Like the journey is literally, it just keeps going, right? And you have the ability to kind of keep on diving, keep on exploring, keep on expanding. There's just all this wonderfulness, and your program is very much geared to help women. I'm going to say women, but I don't know whether you work with men as well, to take that journey.
Yep. Indeed, like life is a process. Like it's constant, and it is an unfolding. And those of us that take a step on the path of thriving and opening up to self-care and looking at ourselves and where we get in the way, then just becomes a lifelong journey. I mean, we're designed to do that. And certainly with Nisaro Libre, which means born free, it's in alignment with that, certainly, and that's been part of my journey as well. And yeah, it doesn't stop. It hasn't. It's just and for those of us that enjoy that, then it's perfect.
Absolutely. Food for the soul, as I like to think. That's what I like to consider it as, really good food for the soul. So let's just kind of get started in terms of questions, Belinda. Now, your Born Free program is all about breaking free from the limiting patterns that hold us back. What do you believe is the root cause of these patterns? And, how do they interfere with our ability to fully embrace self-care and personal freedom?
It's a really good question. Thanks for asking. Given the journey for me personally, because this is a journey that has been undertaken by me, so therefore it's, this is why the program exists. We have as children like 4 core, what's called polysemies in this world. What that means there's 4 core wounds that happen, generally pre-verbal. So right before we start talking around age 2 or whatever, because there's a level of awareness. So developmentally as a human being, we start to see at around age 2 the terrible twos. The personality starts to emerge. By the time we're 7, we're set in stone. That little wee personality is there. Everything else is just building around it. So what happens is that there's a core wound that actually, which is one of 4 things. So that's a sense of belonging, that's a sense of attunement, sense of avoidance, or a sense of lack of basic trust. So that can happen through any major means, and it doesn't have to be dramatic. This is not about, a destructive moment. It can be as simple as a child or a baby being wrapped too tight, and a baby like being really uncomfortable with that and crying and trying to get attention. And then one of the parents doesn't have attunement to actually identify, the baby's actually, it's not hungry. It's not, he or she is wrapped too tight. So that's where attunement then becomes like a mismatch. So those patterns then drive us all the way through our life, and they just get built upon from certain contexts, our beliefs, our values. It's kind of like the very most deepest protected part of ourselves that actually then decides on how we care for ourselves, how we don't care for ourselves, how we value self-care or not value self-care, or we suppress a creative element of ourselves. It's a rule. So then we start to put rules in place that we're not even anywhere aware of in terms of the construct of the personality, which comes from, usually when we look at it, I use the Enneagram to identify the box we're in. And that's just a box. It's a place to start to identify. Here's what happens, and here's like the spiritual wisdom that gets missed that comes from those core wounds. And usually they're stacked as an experience. So the first one is like the last one to get, dealt with. But then there's just in various different orders we go through that. But they're the reasons why we do what we do. And lots of personal development is really helpful, but it doesn't always address a core wound. I mean, and it can be quite traumatic for some, but others it's just very simple. And that's what kicks off how we are in the world.
Yeah. Amazing. That was such an interesting, as you were talking then about the baby being wrapped, and just that imagery actually, and just thinking that there isn't anything wrong per se. It's just that it's uncomfortable, and somebody else not noticing that, not seeing that, and how that in and of itself starts to create a pattern, a thought, a behavior. It's just, wow, just how complex we are as humans, actually. Just that's what strikes me. Amazing. Okay, so what about ancient wisdom? Now, it teaches us the importance of understanding ourselves at a deeper level. I get that, and I'm sure most people who have any experience of ancient wisdom will know that. How does the Born Free program help individuals reconnect with their true essence? And why is this step so crucial for spiritual and emotional well-being?
So again, it's a great questions, Yvonne. As you say, most people are aware that there are ancient traditions in the world. Anybody who's done sort of like any kind of, who's open to any of this sort of stuff understands that. And some people at a more deeper level than others. For me, and how the program is designed and what came about was ancient wisdom runs through everything. It talks about the unity of how we are in the world and how our cosmos actually facilitates itself. So we're part of everything. So we're made up of water. So there's water, there's an element of water, there's the element of fire, there's the element of earth, there's the element of air. And we're all actually made up of that. So we're not separate to or from nature or the world that we say is around us. It's in us, it's of us. So using ancient traditions, which is anything from studying the Lakota to groups in, as we were talking earlier, Burkina, I can't remember the name of that. That's a blank, my apologies, to the Mexican Zapotec, the Guatemalan Mayan, in places in Mongolia, with the reindeer people. These are all peoples that I've come into contact with. They talk about all these elements of what we're made of and how that's actually larger. So for us, in order to actually open up to our deeper sense of true nature, we've got to get what's in the way out of the way. So the tools that are applied are actually based on, a facilitation process, but it also uses some of the ancient wisdom styles to actually clear some of what's in the way from ourselves. So a deeply held belief or those sort of things. We get to the very core and identify those so we can actually pull the threads and release them. So that way people can actually start to really get a better sense of more energy. They start to open up to feeling far less stressed and far less triggered by certain situations that they might find themselves in. Say, for example, there's a family dynamic they've been having for 20 years and, you know, that one brother that somebody might not get along with is all of a sudden, it doesn't matter what they say. They're just not bothered by it. They manage it with grace and with flexibility. And often what comes on board is love, and they're not bothered by it. So therefore it totally changes that dynamic. So one of the clients of mine has actually had that, you know, her, as she described it, using these ancient traditions, including music and including movement. Qigong is another that actually gets applied as well, which is ancient, which is about the physical body and how we hold energy and how we don't, if it doesn't move in the right way, but we become stagnant. And anything stagnant like water means that we're not living, we're not flowing with life. And therefore, how can we be truly abundant in the love that we have within us and apply that self-care and really, you know, have a sense of care for oneself. But my client said that, you know, for her, it was like 20 years of trauma. She didn't even know was sitting there and what was causing the triggers. And we did a clearing process, and we used this ancient movement and the actual inquiry process to facilitate her through it so she could release from it. And now she said, I just don't react in the same way at all. And it was very quick.
Fantastic. And that's freedom, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's freedom. It's getting you back to born free. Like that's what we were when we were just brand new, you know? Yeah. So it's like giving us that gift of spaciousness, that inner freedom of like that. And all of a sudden it's gone. And it's because we get to the core of it and that addresses that. So therefore our sense of self-care naturally starts to come online because we're not in the way, and our true nature has a way of creatively facilitating the expression of itself.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. Amazing. I love that. Okay. So, you know, many of us struggle with self-worth and often put others' needs first. I hear it almost in every conversation I have with a client to some degree. How does your program help individuals shift from self-neglect to self-love and prioritizing their own needs without that baggage of guilt?
Yeah. Again, these are fantastic questions. So for an individual, the first initial process, which is what you've been involved in, is to get an understanding of what your typology is. Now, it's not to put you in a box. It's actually to get an understanding of how you're constructed and what happens and what patterns that you generally tend to run. Why are you running a sense of self-worth? But what specifically does that mean to you? So it can be expressed, a lack of self-worth can be expressed by one type in a very different way to another. And there is a different reason for that. So that polysemy or that core pattern that's running could be based on, I don't trust people and therefore don't trust myself, and I don't feel worthy of trust. So that can actually really be an underpinning reason. Like it's a very deep core element, or it could be as simple as, I don't feel attuned to nature and what's around me and the abundance of it. And there's been a misinterpretation as a young child as to, well, instead of being in abundance mode, we're actually being in lack mode. So it's like the unworthiness is driven from not feeling attuned and not feeling worthy of what's available in the world for, you know, what's been given to us as I call it, the gift that we're given of baggage. Like our parents don't know that what they're doing is curating a personality that says, well, I'm not worthy and therefore I'm last and other people are more important, because in order to get love, you've got to give love rather than receive it, and you're last on the list. So that can come out with, say, type 2s. It's quite often that they do that because they love to help. So you'll hear a mum maybe saying, oh, you're such a good helper. And that's a positive, but what it reinforces is, well, I'm not good enough unless I help someone. In order to get, I've got to give. So we address those core elements by the facilitated process and looking at the threads and really getting into the inner color and elements of those with that traditional sort of way of weaving. It's like a weave that we have, and we've got knots that tie us to those things, and then that to release it, to actually get you to pull that and explore it in a safe and comfortable place, like a space that's actually, you know, non-judgmental and it's one-to-one. And then we actually go through that process that gets you to explore what that is and why that's there, and what it might feel like, how it sounds, how it smells, how it looks, or the colors that are associated with it. And then we get you to release it. So what happens through that facilitated element is, it sounds very simple, but actually what happens is you're releasing potentially 20, 30, 40 years of something that's been bound, that isn't yours. It was put there, not by intention, but you know how life is sometimes, or it can be through other traumatic experiences. And then what that does is just, it releases how that stack sits together, and then people are then able to start to put in new boundaries. They just, by nature, it actually just unfolds quite naturally. A very good friend of mine who's worked with me, she's become a friend. She actually didn't realize that there was a bunch of boundaries she wasn't putting in place within a familial situation. And that just automatically, after a few months, just came on board. And now that dynamic has completely changed. And she actually described, I feel free. I feel really comfortable to put me first, because she was actually a type 2. So she was always about, is everyone else comfortable and happy? And she's also, you know, able to really take charge of situations. And so people would lean on her to get help from her because she was good at it. So what happened was that she was always exhausted. And now she's like, I've got more energy. I'm not exhausted. And I'm actually putting me first. If I want to sit down and do a creative drawing, I'll sit down and do what moves me. And my family, like, all of a sudden got a bit uncomfortable with that, but they've actually had to accept it because she's living from her truth and her authentic true nature, which is, that's a self-care element for her. She enjoys sitting and those sort of things. So that's part of what can happen for somebody.
I love that. That's, you know, that when you get to that place when you have unpacked or unpicked, or whatever the terminology you want to use, sufficiently to understand the importance of these things, these boundaries. You know, that they're not about separation. They are to serve, preserve, to ensure that you have the freedom also to show up and be yourself, and not be ticking boxes of other people's or societies. So that really matters, and I think that's wonderful. So incorporating practices like meditation and mindfulness can be transformative. How do you integrate these spiritual tools and practices into the Born Free program? And what impact do you see them have on participants' health and overall life satisfaction?
With most people are familiar with, you know, the mindfulness practice, or they're aware of meditation. So for me, the label of meditation for some people implies that they have to visualize something and they have to do something. The actual intentionality of a sitting practice, which is incorporated, is literally to sit and to be, and then ask a silent question, not living in here, because we spend most of our time, as we're educated in this realm, to live in mind. It's actually to move toward being, which is the true nature of one's own self, like that part of us that feels like, you know, what you need to do somehow. Sometimes that's, I need to just call this person. There's no rhyme or reason. It doesn't come from your head. It's just pick up the phone and have that conversation, whatever that is. Like, majority of people have had a moment of some description like that, or walking down a road for a particular reason, and then suddenly you discover that one thing you've been looking for all day, or, you know, that sort of stuff. So the sitting practice is to actually slow us down. This is something that happens here that I do, that it's even 10 minutes to, you know, anywhere up to an hour later on in the program. But initially it comes into play where there's an assessment. As a facilitator, I'm assessing where you're at and what's actually where it's going to work and where it needs to start and at what level. So it could be just simply as 10 minutes. Somebody might be very busy, whatever, children, life, 10 minutes of putting the being first rather than the doing. And because we're human beings, we are labeled as such, not a human doing. So sitting with that is actually, then it allows us to actually sit with whatever's gone on in the program, whatever we may have been uncovering, whatever we might be working on, and opening up that spiritual pathway. Then what that allows us to do is actually, so we can journal. So then whatever arises out of that, it could be a realization, an aha moment. And it's just like, oh my God, I've been spending my whole life for the last 20 years actually thinking I'm supposed to do X, Y, Z to make XYZ friend or partner happy, when actually I've got, it's all backwards. Like, actually, no. I can see how I've participated in this.
Yes.
And that stops. Like, so it's the inquiry of what something is about, where is it about. So spending 10 minutes in silence and just sitting, and then post that, writing anything that arises from that. So then that can be brought back to a discussion point, and we can look at, well, what's next? How is that playing out? And we can point to certain things, like, say, for example, the need to belong, which somebody may not realize that they're doing. So they're pleasing people in order to belong, so they don't risk their relationships. Type 6s often do that. They're testing for, can I trust you? Do I belong? Do we belong? And then that permeates the whole part of their life. So we look at that, and then we address that issue, and we go into that and where that started and unpack that. And the sitting post that allows people to sit with it and allow what comes up from the witness, the being of one's own truth, because the truth for us comes from within, not from an external source. So this is all designed to get you to go within yourself to find your answers. I don't hold those answers, merely it's facilitation. And sitting/meditation, mindfulness is designed to get you out of your head and not in that. Notice what you're saying, but ignore it, and actually come drop down into the felt space, whether that's in the gut, the heart. Everyone has a different sense of that. So then that allows them to open up and be free. And what happens for that was some clients actually, I do work with men on occasion. It is predominantly aimed at women. Is a male friend of mine that I've known throughout this process as well. He presented with some issues that he was feeling very blocked from like the gut down. So we went through one of the processes, and then we explored that, and then encouraged him to go and sit with that and get back into the habit. He stopped doing it, and then write about it, and then actually we could come back and do some more work and explore that, what came out of it. So what actually came out of it for him was he actually felt a massive release of energy that he didn't realize was blocked from his waist down. And he said his legs just didn't feel the right way, and he wasn't able to move forward. He felt like, I just felt stuck. I felt completely, and I didn't know why. And once we uncovered the reasoning and what was happening there, the capacity to release meant he could move forward. So then he was able to make choices around his actual vocation. So he was trying to move vocations, and it was just, he was stuck, and he had no idea what and why. And he was rejecting what he already knew to be true. He already knew it was true. He already knew what he wanted to do, but he just wasn't moving forward because he was stuck in this energy. So we moved it and used these tools, and it opened him up to a point where now I know exactly what I need to do without resistance.
Yes, yeah. And what I find interesting listening to that story is because quite often when we are in that place of, I know what I want to do, or this is what I really want to go and explore, whatever that is, and then we're resistant to it, the first thought or the first layer is usually, I'm fearful of is like that first thing. And yet, just like that, it's like energy. There's stuck energy. There's something else. There's something deeper. This is when we come right into the body, and understanding that that's the work. That getting into the body is where the magic, and I really want to say it's where the magic happens. I know certainly for me in all my experiences, this is not where my magic happens.
Exactly.
This is where my magic happens. It's here in the body.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And that's why the movement's really important, and why the sitting practice, which is not designed for an outcome. It's not a doing. It's not the strive drive. It's to get out of here and sit in being, which is with our innate wisdom sits and resides. And ironically, with him, as he actually shared with me this morning, he said there was a lot of unworthiness of who was I to want to do this particular type of work. So that comes from him as a type 9, which is vastly different than what you would expect, say, a type 2 to express. But he's like, well, my job is to be quiet, keep the peace, everyone happy. And that goes against what's really true in his heart. It's like, this is really what's true for me, and in actual truth, not a made up, authentic, out of mind truth. It's an actual truth. And the energy that was stuck was the unworthiness that was sitting right underneath that core. So, and as you say, the magic was just releasing that. And he said the energy in the legs, the body was just totally different. And it was very uncomfortable for him. However, what it did do was, and it also facilitates self-care, because he's now doing what really moves him rather than doing what he doesn't do. So that's a self-care element as well. It's like, you've probably had it. I certainly know I have. I spent years in corporate roles shoving myself into a box and playing a game and doing all those things. And that was useful for a lot of things. But in so many other ways, it was soul crushing. It just wasn't that what really I knew was true for me wasn't allowed to come out in a creative manner.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So much in there. So much to take away in that bit there. Okay, so I want to talk about the idea of freedom, because freedom is something we talk about a lot. Everybody wants freedom, or so we say. That's a kind of easy word to use, but I know it's central to your program. But it's more than just freedom from the external constraints, because it's about the internal, just like you were talking about, the internal liberation as well. How do you guide participants towards achieving their inner freedom? What are some of the basic steps, and how does that contribute to their ability to live more authentically and care for themselves in a holistic way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It reminds me too, you asked me about well-being. So this is all tied up into well-being as well, and our personal health. So when we on board, like as you've been through, and you might like to contribute here, is we look at your holistic self. So we look at your typology, what's happened, your family dynamics, the culture, cross culture, wherever that might be. We just explore. We're exploring and asking questions, and then that's also the physical health as well. So we're looking at, well, what was the physical health like at different points? Have you injured yourself? Have you fallen over? Did you have a tendency to be kamikaze, get on motorbikes, crash them into walls? Those sort of things. Some of us have done that. So we're looking at a holistic being here, because we are not one-dimensional, and our freedom, the truth of that freedom, comes from what really is the witness that sees everything that happens and actually remains like neutral. Like it actually, and then that it actually facilitates our capacity to make different decisions, what moves us, like the energy of the universe that moves through us and as us in life. And when we tap into that by seeing, oh, okay, so I'm constructed in this way, this is how the personality is constructed, looking at it objectively. So getting objective is the first principle to freedom. So it's seeing that rather than living it as such. Yes. And then we actually walk through how your stack comes up. So we look at, like, is it belonging your first one? Is basic trust the last one? How that that works, and that was something we discussed as well when we walked through
Yeah.
that together. And then we look at, okay, so where are you? And we discuss a readiness. We talk about a readiness in terms of asking permission of the body and asking permission of the subtle self, which is the energy aspects of ourselves, for readiness to actually take this path, and then go deeper into that. And then we walk through a process that actually finds where potential blocks are, where the energy is sitting and it's stagnated often. And then we walk through a process to release that. And that may mean that, you know, the energy as described with my friend and also with my other friend, there was an enormous amount that was blocked, and it was associated with a color. So even that all these more small meaning things, and they're all related to the earth, whether that's water, whether that's fire, whether it's air, whether it's whatever. And there might be an imbalance. So then what happens is we're actually able to see where that imbalance is, and you can feel it literally yourself and free yourself from it. So that means that energy then flows, the body is actually able to recuperate. And more often, what I've seen definitely with two particular individuals is there was a chronic fatigue issue, and that chronic fatigue started to dissipate. Yes, certainly there were other things that were recommended, like going and getting Japanese acupuncture to help the meridians, but the qigong and the writing and the music, we use vibrational music as well to facilitate that, because vibration is what runs through the whole entire universe. Again, we're made up of that, which is light. And these are all researchable things. So this is how it's designed. So then it shifts and moves that energy. So then the body's actually relieved of what it's working hard and is stuck in there. Yeah. So this is not claiming medical, I suppose, medical advice. And I use also a recommendation with homeopathic medicine, which is a vibrational medicine. It's non-toxic. It's harmless to people. And some of those things might come up in the conversation, and I'll recommend those to help shift that energy. So then what happens is that the issues with the skin, for example, could actually certainly abate. The sleeplessness, some of the fears and the worries, because you're out of mind, you're actually back into the body, you've released that energy. So there's no more insomnia. So there's a lot less insomnia, or there's like no more just sitting and being in the head anymore. So therefore there's actual availability to be out in the sunshine and get out. So the skin is actually better, and the sense of spaciousness and freedom internally to choose how one responds to life actually starts forward. And it's natural. It comes from a natural space, and without the need for I need to push back on this person, or no, I'm just going to suck it up. It's just actually, it starts to free flow from the internal space of our wisdom. And that's what the internal freedom is about, and the internal process to enable us to actually feel as though there's more energy available, feel as though there's more for me and as me. And then being with and as nature is encouraged as well. So that means that there's more choice. So instead of the habitual process of choosing to attend every argument we're invited to, which was something that's happening here for me, which I would attend every argument I was invited to. And it was just, well, no, this is not going to happen, because the internal self is sitting there with the wisdom going, this is not one to attend to. And okay, thanks for sharing. Awesome. I'm just going to leave now. So, there's those moments of self-empowerment that naturally start to come on board that are about freedom. So it's whatever's happening in the world, the internal world is free from the chaos and free from the stuckness and free from, this is driving me mad, or look at what's happening in the world. And instead of seeing it that way, there's a freedom of peacefulness. There's an element of contentment that comes on board. And that's definitely fed back to me through clients, and certainly what's happened for me. There's a deep sense of tranquility, a deep aspect of peace that's available, and certainly contentment in life, rather than judging it and thinking my life is not meeting this criteria, not meeting that criteria, or I didn't do this enough, or I'm not enough, whatever that is that's running is gone. That just does not happen. So that's freedom. All that is freedom, and it's naturally available to us.
Yeah. Oh, that has been so kind of like deeply covered up. You know, you just think that, you know, that access, yes, we can still access it, so it's not like it's over, but to think that that's what we all had in the first place, that was always available, and yet so many other things came in and kind of changed that. And interesting, when you were talking there, I was thinking, somebody said to me the other day, you know, about, you know, everything that's going on in the world right now, and you know, and yes, okay, there are lots of things happening in the world right now, and I find myself more and more almost being able to watch it through a lens where I see it, and I, you know, and I have compassion and I have empathy, but it doesn't eat into my joy or my sense of being thankful for my life or being here and being present. And that is a shift that I've noticed. Like before, you know, it was all, oh, you know, getting really tense, and I don't have that anymore. And as I said, it's not coming from a place of not caring. It's I don't get pulled into it, or I don't feel like I'm being sucked into some other vacuum that I can be and see. And that sounds a little bit like what you were just saying there. It's just it's okay to be able to acknowledge these things without almost like contributing to it, because I feel like when we get sucked into it and we get angry, all we're doing is pouring more into it.
Exactly. And that's that. It's that objective. Like once you get objective to that, and once there's been clearing, like we're actually clearing away the things, the ties that bind us to whatever trigger we have, or whatever we say is not right, and get upset, and we wind ourselves up for 3 or 4 days, or whatever that might be. And or we attend some party that we didn't even want to go to, but we didn't, you know, we couldn't say no to, or we feel like we're obligated to go. I mean, rather than actually just have a sense of, nah, not doing it. It's not for me. I want to have a quiet night at home. So what happens is that, we actually get brought into it and distracted. That's a massive distraction. So what you're referencing is the capacity that's within us is to see reality for what reality is, and then not label it, not make meaning out of it. So what this process does is show you where the meaning, we are the meaning maker, and we start to get less and less involved in that, and we pull all those threads apart, and then it's an objective aspect. It's like, well, that's happening then, and seeing that, you know, whatever is in not in resonance with ourselves, it doesn't resonate for us. It's like, I don't like XYZ. That's still possible, but it doesn't actually destabilize our inner sense of peace and freedom. So that's the difference between being caught up and wasting energy and creating health issues and mistreating ourselves and abusing our true nature, our nature of ourselves, whether it's through drinking too many cans of Coke, or whether it's through food, or whatever that may be for each of us. When that's and unhooked out of as to what really is driving that actually enables that actual freedom and peace that's already available to us. It's just, and people often reference it of like, oh, if I could just get by the beach and then I would just feel this. And it's like, that's an external point of going somewhere to change states in order to achieve something that's already available on the inside. The beauty and everything that we experience and see it as external is actually internal to us. So there's a massive capacity to open that up and to creatively do that. So we use creativity to do it in order actually for someone to flourish and bring about what really is true for them, like what's in our true nature, which is to see something, to acknowledge that it may be horrific, although not have a disturbed sense of self internally and anxiety or whatever that is. It's actually it gets put down. It vanishes. And so therefore we're able to respond to life, not react to it, because we're not living in here. We're coming from this spaciousness that allows us to hold whatever is happening, acknowledge truth, whatever it is, whether it's an atrocity or just a minor upset.
Yes.
And we can then take action if so moved. We can actually respond to it rather than want to fight against the machine or do all these things. It's actually a response that we have, and it's a natural response. So it gives us that capacity for us to listen to what's true for us. And it may not change what we might have decided to do, but largely it does. And certainly the well-being outcomes certainly start to change with that as well. So the stress factors are less. The issues that come with stress, like headaches, chest pains, or potentially, heart flutters or those sort of things, or the sense of exhaustedness, or whatever that might be, those things start to really dissipate, which then in turn actually reduce like other really quite serious conditions, and can contribute to that. So, some other friends, as an example, with the program that I went through, have been able to address like a stage 4 cancer issue. Not that it was through clearing, just really clearing and embracing what is and what's being said to you and what's happening within it. Instead of fighting it, is just allowing it and moving through it and moving toward what is actually the solution to that. So this is also incorporated in that. It's allowing it, not fighting what's happening within you, is actually allowing it and what has it got to say, and listening to that and inquiring into it such a deep level that then the truth comes out and then it can be released.
Yeah. Powerful stuff. Really powerful. Oh, goodness. Okay, so Belinda, in your experience, what is the most profound shift that people experience with the Born Free program when it comes to self-care and their relationship with themselves? What long-term impact do you see these shifts having on their lives?
Certainly, for what's been observed the most, one of the participants, she most certainly has seen a massive shift in her creative energy. She's actually now using color and drawing and doing amazing artwork that she said she was doing artwork before, but it was nothing on the level that she's actually doing it now. And she loves it. She said it just comes out like it's something that's that is joy. It's joyful for her. So for her, in terms of that, is a profound shift. And also preferencing her time is actually choosing to make those things her priority. Like that has become her priority. So she's gone from making sure everyone else is fine and solving all their problems and being in amongst chaos all the time, to actually having a far more tranquil life, a very peaceful existence that is joyful for her. She spends a lot of time doing her creative elements. She's a guide as well, so she finds also that she doesn't waste time with people that actually don't resonate with her. She actually knows instantly, because she does private work. She will guide some people and then won't with others. She actually does like stuff in the Guatemala for in the Mayan, like walking people through the Mayan spiritual practices and some of the ancient places that you can go and see there. And she does that privately, and she's now is like, someone, no, I'm not interested. This person doesn't resonate with me. They're not really going to be aligned with how she expresses herself and how she actually presents the information and what's really like what comes forward for her. So she chooses not to. So she makes a choice not to work with people, and works with people that she instantly knows that are actually going to get it from how she shows up in the world. She also she's not engaged in a family dynamic that had been going on for 40 years and had some pretty serious trauma in the background. She had done quite a bit of work already, but was really ready for this kind of program. And she said what that has done is just shifted all of that, cleared it all out. She actually has all this, for her, it's this profound sense of gratitude for what unfolded, and also love for her siblings, although she doesn't get involved in everything that they run to her, and they've stopped coming to her because she's just saying, no, that's something that you need to sort out. I love you. I'm here if it really is difficult. I'm here for you to talk to, but this is not something I'm going to get involved in. She also has said that she doesn't get herself wound up in her daughter's business anymore. Because she was always like, oh my God, I've got to make sure she's fine and caring and this and that. And she said, 6 months ago, I'd have gotten on a bus and gone to the other side of Guatemala because I would have thought Jude was in some kind of issue. She said, now it's just a conversation and trusting her as an adult to make adult decisions, but being with her to hold her in that space, but love her and let her be an adult and allow her the space to grow. So she said that for her has been massive in terms of how she used to show up. And also from her health point of view, she was always already doing some things, but she said now she actually goes for a walk because she enjoys it. She doesn't do it because I need to do this because of exercise. She actually does it because physiologically she's moved energetically to do it. And she said she immerses herself in the nature that's around her. So she takes it in, she allows it to be part of her, and she notices that water is a really important element to her, and she notices that being grounded is an element. So we work with the elements, so that way she actually has this deeper sense of groundedness, and she spends less time in her head worrying about whatever she was worrying about. She said her sleep has also changed. She used to occasionally take a natural remedy to help her sleep. She doesn't have any of that anymore. And that's like 6, 7, 8 months down the track for her. So these are all things that she's profoundly noticed that are big shifts for her, that she just doesn't feel the need or desire to kind of involve herself in things that really, she said, were other people's things to be resolved. And the level of profound compassion and love that she has available to her. She said that also, it's gone from being a superficial, I'm saying I love this person, this, that, and the other, to actually a true sense of it, like an actual heartfelt truth for her. So she said they're profoundly different. And she said in her health, obviously she's sleeping more. She said her skin's starting to clear up. Her hair's grown exponentially. She said it's like out of control for her. She has to actually sort of, so, and she said, that's never happened. Like, she has really thick curly hair. So she said, so these are all small nuances that indicate the physical body has actually got more like capacity to heal itself and to have energy available to it, and her skin's up, all those things, and a better sleep, all those aspects. And she recently went to her doctor, who actually said her health is like the best he's seen for probably the last couple of years. So and she's in her 60s. So she's exactly. So for her, in terms of her life change, and she relishes her peaceful, like her space. She relishes that and really honors that now. And she said, when I don't do that, I really notice the difference for not doing it. So she said the more that it happens, the more she tends toward it, because she's realizing that it just, everything gets out of whack when she's not doing the sitting and the journaling and the the things that she enjoys doing, and her creative energy. And she does things that really she really enjoys doing, not because she feels she has to anymore. She's moved away from doing more corporate like guidance to private. So she's basically self-employed.
Fantastic. I love it. All of that sounds joyful to me. That's just like, for me, that is, when I talk about being joyful, it's that being able to be, but, and also being able to, when I'm doing the things that just feel so wonderful from the inside out. You know, it's just that they fill, you can almost just feel them filling you up to overflow. And I always think about, you know, we talk about the cup half full, and I'm not interested in the half. I want my cup to be overflowing, which for me is like energy flowing, right? That to be able to be in that space where the energy is flowing so much that you are being able to move through your life in a way that just makes you so appreciative, so grateful. And that doesn't mean to say that you don't take care of the stuff that needs to be taken care of, or all of that, but you just do it from a very different space, a very different energy. And when you're talking about your program, and that's what comes up for me as we're talking. And yeah, I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for joining me. I mean, we've had lovely conversations, brilliant conversations, and I loved my session with you. And I mean, no one can see it, but there's a whole page of mappy drawing things that that took place after we had our session, as things were coming up. And I want to say up, not out of here, but coming up for me. So it's brilliant work that you do. I just want to encourage anyone who is watching, who is listening, to, you know, please connect with Belinda and go find out more. This, you know, there is something that I think is incredibly important, but then I think this is important whatever level you're going into anything, is that sense of readiness. Be ready. You know, there is a sense of readiness, and I know that, Belinda, you kind of guide through it and facilitate through that anyway, but it's very difficult to make any changes, or to you know, kind of move into something if you are almost like resisting before you've even started. So yeah, I'll let you speak into that, Belinda.
Yeah, certainly. The readiness is really important. It's something that you and I spoke about with the introduction, so you could get a sense of it. And your response to me was, you have to be really ready for this. And also, it's like being cracked open. And for some of us, there's a real desire. For me, absolutely. This pathway was because there was a readiness.
Yes.
And it's like being smoking charcoal, you know, he's just sitting there waiting for something to crack it open and bring it into a flame that it's meant to. So that's the most important part with this work. People have to have done some kind of inquiry, you know, personal development, or whichever pathway they've taken, to get to it, where they know that there's a sense of longing, or a sense of just there's something more, but I don't know what this is, and it's deeper, and I just want like there's a creative essence that maybe suppressed, whatever that is, and you just want to open it up. And being ready for that, because it means shedding, it means letting go. There is an element of shedding and clearing, and to get to the diamond that sits within us all. You know, there's that beautiful diamond underneath all that stuff. So, and it's okay if someone's not, it's fine. But definitely, as you say, it's not to coming in going, I'm really not sure, I'm apprehensive, or, you know, a little apprehensive, understandable, but just being resistant, it won't get the outcomes that, you know, if you want that true freedom and that to heal that, and, you know, even clear something as little as sinus problems or whatever that comes with the territory, that won't unfold if there's not a readiness, and that only can come from the individual. So I don't know how you would describe it. So from your experience of the onboarding and everything else, they were words that you definitely used yourself. How else would you sort of describe that from just the small amount we do?
It's deep work. I mean, even when we had even the kinds of the variety of the questions that you asked me, so that willingness to be vulnerable, that willingness to answer honestly, and being able to do that knowing that you're not being judged, because I think that's when people tend to not want to be honest, is because, you know, she's going to think this, she's going to think that, and let me be the one to say that Belinda doesn't think any of those things. So I knew that I was in a safe space. I knew that I could just say whatever came up for me, and that you were just holding the space for me to do that. So I feel that it's but you have to have that desire. For me, there is like, have the desire to want to go deeper.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just wait until you do have that desire.
Exactly.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just wait until you're ready, and we all have to be in that place. And yeah, absolutely, you touch on something that's very deeply important for me. The structure of this is set up so it's a safe space. It is a container where there is no judgment. The background that I have is in natural therapy as well, long before the other corporate work. And I've dealt with people in, where you come on to the massage and you take your clothes off, you do that sort of thing, whatever. You're completely naked, not in a true sense of the word, like you're covered, but that's what this space is about. And for me, coming into the space is about having a real deep sense of privilege of whatever is about to be brought forth by the individual that's sitting before me. And it's to honor you. The work is about honoring you and honoring you in such a way that tools are gifted to you so you can actually do this yourself post the program, and actually then continue the journey for yourself in such a way that is helpful and healthful for you. And that's what it's designed for. So there isn't anything so far that anyone has ever said that has put me into a position where I felt I couldn't continue with them or whatever. It's like, and there have been some deep sharings from individuals around, and as you say, their willingness to just be vulnerable and bring it all out in ways that were traumatic. Things that happened that were very traumatic for them, that created the situations that are in their lives now. So for me, it's about making sure that 100% of the time that you are held in a space that is completely free of judgment and is actually orientated towards a sense of love and a spaciousness of freedom for you.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, as I said, for anyone who has watched this, read the article, etc., please feel free to reach out to Belinda. You can find out more about her program. There is a link. So please go have a look. And, if any part of you feels kind of like pulled, like there is a pulling, or you want to, like, I need to find out more, I need to just have a conversation, please reach out to Belinda. She's a wonderful human being, and I most definitely would point people in your direction without a second thought. And I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate all of your insights. I love that you're kind of like just traveling and having all these magical experiences and meeting all these amazing people and really pulling all these beautiful strands from all these different ancient wisdoms and practices into something that really is life-changing. So thank you so much for the work that you do, Belinda.
Likewise, Yvonne, it's been a pleasure and a real privilege to spend some time with you and speak with you about this to your audience. So I'm eternally grateful. Thank you.